evening, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to another episode of Critique Corner with me, Daniel Parker.
And me, DB Fastbinder. And boy, the numbers from last week's eclectic review-a-thon are kind of interesting.
Yeah, yes, they are. I guess they like us talking about action movies with old white guys.
Yeah, it's uh, like I honestly thought we'd get more heat talking a little bit of smack about Spider-Verse, but I guess not.
Yeah. Yeah. So that should make our views for this week's show pretty interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
because technically one of the movies does have a dearly departed white man, but it isn't an action movie like the other ones we've been doing that keep blowing up.
right. Yeah. And one of my reviews has a dearly departed old white woman. So
Yeah, well, we'll see if that crosses over. Uh,
yes.
but for those of us who are new here, first off, if you like what we're doing, like, subscribe, bell notification, all the YouTube things, please. It helps
Yes.
us out because we actually have been growing in subscriber count pretty significantly this year.
Yes, indeed. We may even get to 100 by the end of the year. Fingers
Yeah,
crossed.
that's possible.
Yeah.
I feel like we're definitely again the audience is saying review action movies. None of this. You could be lightly genre like Indiana Jones, but we
Yeah.
don't care about Star Trek. We don't care about your Japanese cartoons. We don't care about uh, we don't care about Good Burger. It's kind of I don't
Yeah.
know how we've attracted this audience.
I don't know either. Yeah. Maybe we should go back to the old Canon Films library and start watching some old Chuck Norris movies.
Yeah, seriously. But anyway,
Yeah.
because we are more than an algorithm, we're doing things that interest us. So get ready for
Yes.
another week of eclectic reviews.
Indeed. Yes. But of course, before we get into all of the reviews that we do, we'd like to talk box office.
Yes,
Uh,
which is one of those Monday morning quarterback things that we just enjoy talking about.
Indeed, yeah, and oh boy, this has not been a good holiday season for the box office.
No, I think they kind of needed that Dune 2 shot in the arm.
Yeah, or maybe talk James Cameron into releasing Avatar 3 a little early.
Yeah, hey Ninja,
Hey, Ninja.
good to have you back. Hope
Yes,
everything has been going well for you.
yes, indeed. But yeah, I mean, of course, not surprising this week. The Willy Wonka prequel was in the top spot. Did better than I thought it would, but still didn't do very well.
Yeah, 39 million for the opening weekend on a budget of 125 million.
Yeah,
Uh, Although it's doing pretty well internationally, though, the international box office is inflated by the fact that it released in a lot of territories early.
right. Yeah,
Now, it's made 12 million in the first 3 weekdays. Actually, no, more like 14 million. So that's decent weekday legs.
yeah, yeah.
I think this is going to be the one that ends up owning the December box office just because what else is there you can take a kid to?
Yeah, maybe Aquaman.
Yeah, so apparently a lot of those rumors that were going on about Aquaman either weren't true or turned out not to be true due to reshoots.
Yes.
Eh, Ninja speculates that Wonka will be a second market success. Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could also leg out. It's kind of like what Puss in Boots did last year.
Yes.
Uh, Puss in Boots, for those who might not remember, actually had an completely abysmal opening weekend in the
Mhm.
US because it launched in the middle of a literal polar vortex.
Yeah.
That depressed the box office quite a bit, and then it bounced back a bit.
Yes. Yeah.
So it had like an insane, like on a percentage basis of its opening weekend, it had like a mathematically insane legs.
Yeah, and couple that with opening up at the same time as Avatar 2. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Although I noticed that a year later, I still hear people talk about Puss in Boots 2, say, "Oh yeah, that's a great movie." Yeah, I don't know how is that such a great movie. I never hear anybody talk about Avatar 2.
Yeah.
Released a whole Avatar video game.
Yeah. 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 Indeed. Yeah.
Ninja says, family film success I noticed are more for the second market with few exceptions. It definitely helps make up for it.
Indeed. Yeah. Especially the lesser known ones that aren't like they aren't part of a franchise
Mhm.
or aren't released by the mouse. Although
Yeah,
being released by the mouse haven't been doing very well either. So yeah.
no, no, they have not been.
Yeah.
Um, so continuing down to our top 10 here, once again, two of the top five are Japanese films, specifically The Boy and the Heron and Godzilla minus one.
Yeah. Hey, D Rhino, good to see you.
Oh, hey guys, did you know that Critique Corner is playing?
Oh yeah.
Thanks, phone.
Yeah.
Anyway, those are both trundling along, making pretty decent money
Mhm.
especially for what they are.
I think Godzilla has made more money in the US than it has in Japan.
Uh, Very possible. Let's find out. Although I question this international box office because it literally has not updated since the first weekend that Godzilla came out,
Oh, yeah.
and they
So,
list nothing for Japan here. So I'm thinking the numbers,
mm,
international records for Godzilla minus one, are just laughably incomplete.
yeah, yeah,
Because this is not a situation where they're having to dub it for the Japanese market. At least I hope not. Like
yeah,
considering that they already dubbed it in Japanese, like what the heck is going on?
yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, Boy and the Heron and Godzilla minus one are doing all right for themselves.
Mhm,
Although, okay, so like I said, I like Godzilla minus one. I'm
mhm.
happy to see an anime movie doing well. Let's not overdo it here because
Yeah.
they're not saving the box office, unfortunately. They're
No, and anime is still it's not very, but it's still pretty niche, and it has not gotten mainstream appeal yet, and let's hope that it doesn't.
That's true. One would kind of hope that it does, but on the other hand, that can only water it down and
Yeah.
make bad ideas bleed back into Japan.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like the pandemic did a lot for it, just because there was a lot of it on Netflix, and Netflix had some very long series on it at the time.
Yeah, true. Yeah, and also there's quite a few of them on Hulu as well.
Mhm.
So yeah,
The number two in the box office, so we had The Hunger Games, which week five, s- things got legs actually. It,
yeah, it does.
yeah, like
Yeah,
3 times legs, doing just about neck and neck nationally, internationally. It's definitely going to breach 300, so that's good on it.
yeah, yeah. Might even eke out a slight profit.
Yeah, could conceivably, depending on what they spent to market it. I would
Mm,
say I saw a decent number of commercials for it when I went to the theater this summer.
mm,
Those
mhm.
commercials did it no favors, in my opinion, because it just made it look lame,
Yeah,
which might actually be accurate to it. I've heard mixed things.
yeah,
Um, but Lionsgate probably isn't going to be rushing out to make a sequel to it, just because
mm, yeah,
like again, there are I think there were opening weekends for some Hunger Games original movies that have outdone its net U.S. haul so far.
yeah. And given the amount of money they lost on the Expendables 4, yeesh.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot that movie existed.
A lot of people have forgotten it existed. A lot of people didn't even know it came out.
I think I think on Black Friday I was already seeing it in a Best Buy.
Oh, wow.
They also had Saw X there in November. Surprisingly,
Wow.
that's a fast turnaround.
That is, yeah.
Let's see, I don't know. Rounding out the top five, you've got Trolls Band Together,
Mhm,
which is continuing to curb stomp Wish.
mhm. Yeah, Wish is uh yeah, Wish is DOA at this point. And I have to go and read Alan Ning's article on Film Threat about all the goings on at Disney.
Oh, that's right. He did keep teasing those.
Yeah, he dropped the first one yesterday.
Oh, neat.
Yeah,
So yeah, we endorse Film Threat. They're interesting people,
they are. Yes.
and honestly, we've been much happier since we've tried to be Diet Film Threat rather than being Diet Midnight's Edge.
Yes, yeah. We're not nearly as angry as we used to be.
Yeah, let's hear. The only other new release of note besides Wonka was Christmas with the Chosen, Holy Night, which actually I believe was also released last year around this time.
Yeah, I think those are episodes from the TV show.
Mm. Yeah, because the weird discrepancy is opening weekend gross 2.9 million, total gross 4.6 million. So that leads me to think that they're lumping in a previous gross.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah,
Then rounding out the top 10, Napoleon, Womp Womp.
yeah,
Renaissance, a film by Beyonce. Week 3 is grossed a total of $30 million. Sorry, Beyonce, Taylor Swift is the bigger star.
yeah.
And then we've got Poor Things, which I might have seen a film threat review of.
Is that the one with Emma Stone? Yes,
Oh my
yes,
God, I think I what?
yeah. Apparently, it is very graphic.
Hmm. Free from the prejudice of her times, Bella grows steadfast in her purpose to stand for equality and liberation. Gag.
Yeah, yeah,
That isn't even one of those things that's a bad thing to make a movie about, but just if that's what you have in your description, that tells me a lot about the movie.
yeah. And then just like, what's with that poster? It's not very good.
It's designed to draw your attention and make you wonder what the heck is going on with that movie.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. Unfortunately, I think Ridley Scott's best days are behind him.
Oh, is that a Ridley Scott movie?
Napoleon is a Ridley
Oh,
Scott.
right, right. So say, wow, two bombs in one season. No, just the one.
Just one.
I mean, let's be fair. Ridley Scott at this point in his career, he's what, 80s, 70s?
80s. Yeah.
Yeah. Guy has FU money. He's going to make whatever movie he friggin' wants.
Yes.
Well, what does he care? What does he care if it makes money or not? He's not going to be around to have to spend it.
Right. Yeah.
A movie that actually seems interesting to me to watch at some point when it gets a wider release is American Fiction,
Mm,
which basically it's about an author who is really irritated that it's based on a book, and the premise of the book was basically that in American fiction, black people seem to either be slaves or Barack Obama, and all they ever tell is the slaves story. And so it's about an author who, from my understanding of it, decides to write an intentionally clickbaity story because
mm.
none of his writing about black success actually picks up, and so then he writes this really pandery thing, and it just blows up, and he has to deal with the fallout of that.
Oh, gee.
It's
Yeah.
like it sounds like it's a more highbrow version of the South Park episode Scrody McBooger Balls.
Yeah. Well, though, I don't think there will be any references to Sarah Jessica Parker.
No, probably not. Actually, let's see. Do they? No, they don't have the cast listed. But yeah, this one came out in 7 theaters over the weekend or last weekend, so that's going to be one to wait for a wider release.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then the other one I thought was kind of interesting uh, that I saw down here was they apparently all month they've had a re-release of Love Actually.
Hmm.
Yeah, third weekend of it, and they managed to tack on like only 124 theaters. So they only tacked on another like 16,000 to the. No, I know. I'm looking at that's the dailies. Yeah, probably tacked on another 500,000 to 1 million to the movie's total. Yeah, another 500,000 onto its lifetime box office.
Hmm. Yeah.
Tis the season, I guess. We
Yes.
have been seeing Die Hard get re-released, among other things.
Yeah. Yeah. Although, unpopular opinion, Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
I'm with you there.
Yeah.
Look, a movie cannot just chronologically take place at Christmas to be a Christmas movie.
Right.
Christmas has to be prominent in the themes, messaging, and plot of the movie.
Yes. Yes. Indeed. Yeah.
You could have set Die Hard at Thanksgiving, Jul- July 4th,
Hmm.
or Arbor Day, and
Yeah.
nothing would technically change except for a couple of decorations in Nakatomi Plaza.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen the movie, though. The only thing I could say is that you would have to have a similar holiday where you'd have a skeleton crew, but most of those holidays I mentioned, except Arbor Day, would have a similar result.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
That is the firm opinion of this podcast, and
Yes.
we will not be dissuaded from it.
Exactly.
Uh, And just help our engagement. If you hate that opinion, go ahead and tell us why we're wrong.
Indeed. Yeah.
But yeah, I decided to add everything up. This is a very lopsided box office for last weekend because the top 10 as a total made a total of $68 million for all 10 movies, with Wonka being 39 of that.
Ooh. Yeah. 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 Okay. Okay, Ninja.
Eh, Okay. All right. Yeah, so that's the box office of the week that was. Not too inspiring, though. I suspect Wonka is going to lake out. Just
I think so too. Yeah.
lack of options.
Indeed. Yeah.
Um, Speaking of lack of options, we always do a something old, something new review style. Our something new this week is the Jennifer Lawrence movie, No Hard Feelings.
Yes. Yeah. I remember seeing people talking about this movie when it came out. Mixed reviews. Although I will say the tagline at the top pretty awkward is that describes this movie to a T.
Yes, she's pretty, he's awkward, and the movie is pretty awkward.
Yeah.
Now Daniel, yesterday I actually tell them the story about what I was talking with you about yesterday when we were planning out this week's podcast.
Yeah, so yeah, we were talking about like other stuff that we were going to be reviewing for the show tonight, and then you couldn't remember what our new thing was.
Yes, I had seen it on Saturday,
Yeah.
and for the life of me, I could not remember what movie I had watched.
Yeah. So yes, I had to remind you, and you were like, "Oh yeah."
Let this set the tone for our review of No Hard Feelings.
Yes. We'll kind of go do like a basic plot outline because there really isn't much to plot to talk about. Um, so Jennifer Lawrence plays Maddie.
Oh, thank
Uh,
God you remember the characters' names.
I had to look it up. Yeah, yeah. Well, but yeah, she plays Maddie. She's living in Montauk, New York, which is like a little beach town in Long Island. And she's working as a bartender and an Uber driver. But then her ex boyfriend, who owns a tow truck company, comes and tows away her car because the state is taking possession of it due to her not paying her property taxes.
Which her property taxes have been raising thanks to gentrification in the area.
Yes. And so she's trying to figure out. Now, I will give her character some credit. She's not looking to take the really easy way out. She's just kind of taking an easier way out. So she's like, "Well, I need a car. She needs a car so that she can keep driving for Uber."
Right.
because the money she's making bartending isn't going to cover what she owes. And so she finds an ad on Craigslist for a used Regal, and I think that I remember it being a
Yeah,
Buick.
it's like 40. Yeah, it's like Buick, 40K miles,
Yeah,
brand
and
used.
yeah, and there's no price tag on it. And what the ad is this wealthy middle-aged couple wants a young lady to date their 19-year-old son.
Date.
Yeah, date before he goes off to college, because he's very very shy, very introverted, and he's lived a very insular life. And of course, his parents, the dad is played by Matthew Broderick. Um,
Which in a very non-standard role for Matthew Broderick.
yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, definitely not something he usually does. But yeah, they basically tell her, well, if you can date him, and then like get him. Yeah, yes.
For those of you watching the radio program, I have made an O symbol with one finger, with one hand, and I'm poking it with my other finger.
Yeah. Yeah,
And a
and
class review that you get here.
yes, and so if she does that, then she gets the car, and that's basically the movie is just her trying to, you know, yeah, yeah, if you like pipes with him.
Yep.
But yeah, that's basically the plot. So she's trying to she's dates him and tries to get him to come out of his shell so that she can get the car, and hijinks and awkward things ensue, including their first time they meet, when because so he volunteers at an animal shelter, and she is so painfully obvious that she's trying to hook up with him, that it's just like the only person who couldn't tell that is the kid, because he's
Yeah.
Percy is his name.
And,
Yeah.
and he thinks that she's tried to kidnap him, so he maces her.
Yeah. well well, in
Well,
in all honesty, I mean, she picks him up in a beat up old van.
yeah, it's kind of sketch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Derado, we'll answer your question in a moment.
Yes.
So there are okay. So this is kind of a classic screwball comedy.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's also one based on awkwardness. What I would say is that as a comedy, there are scenes that work and there are scenes that really don't.
Yeah.
Uh, J Law has to carry a lot of it because the writing is kind of thin in places,
Hmm.
and just a lot of the jokes are, she's 15 years older than him, and it's just the generational divide between higher end Gen Z and millennials. They
Yeah.
do some things with her saying triggering things at a kids party or
Well,
a young adults party.
yeah. High school teenager party. Yeah.
Yeah, and just like these upper class people being offended that she implied that two of them were dating. It's like, why is that an insult? And then like
Yeah.
they whip out their phones and are recording her.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
feel like they don't ever actually like they kind of they neither make the joke necessarily and they don't really have anything to say about it. It's just like a fact of the show or the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I like the part where she's going through all the bedrooms and she opens the doors, and
Yeah,
none of the kids are, none of the teenagers are, doing anything, doing any adult activities. They're either like
yeah,
playing video games or looking at their phones. And she's like, doesn't anyone have sex anymore?
yeah, yeah. So it's like a generational thing, but also a class thing, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, and then a joke that really didn't work was, of course, like when she loses her car,
Hmm.
and she has to get around on rollerblades. Which, I mean, is she so poor that she can't get a bicycle? Because bicycles are more effective transportation than rollerblades. But
Might be that she just already happened to already have rollerblades from her childhood.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, so she rollerblades to the to the kid's house and meets the parents, and there are these steps that she's got to go up, and they're like, "Oh, oh yeah, come on up," and she's still
She's
wearing her
yeah.
rollerblades.
She's like, "Hey, can you come down to me?" It's like,
Yeah,
you have shoes in your backpack, you dip. Just change.
yeah, yeah. It's
That was
yeah,
kind of forced.
yeah, it was. Um,
Also, you do get to J Law is finally cashing in on the fappening, I guess, unless that's a body double.
no, that was her.
Okay,
Yeah, that was
so
definitely her. Yeah,
uh, and if it's in a scene where she and the guy go skinny dipping, and someone goes to try to steal their stuff, and she is kind of the one wearing the pants in the relationship, and goes out there and has to fight to get their stuff back.
yeah, yeah.
Though
And
that scene
yeah,
wasn't as funny as I'm probably overselling the scene a bit.
yeah, it was weird. It's just
Yeah,
weird. Yeah,
that's a lot of this movie is just weird.
yeah. And
So
Ninja asks if they do get together at the end.
this is well, okay. Oh, non-spoiler thoughts.
Yeah,
This is a very uneven movie. I could
mhm,
see people I know who would like it and people I know who would not like it.
yeah,
Both actors are able to sell their characters pretty well.
yeah, yeah,
And it does actually have, I would say that it's less funny and it more has good heart because the two characters do go on a journey
yeah.
and become better people by the end of it.
That's true. Yeah, yeah,
So it's got that going for it. It isn't a nihilistic movie, which is kind of what I was almost expecting.
yeah, yeah. If just real quick, I would give it a soft recommend.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah,
Uh,
not a ringing endorsement, but I mean, I've seen worse comedies.
yeah, if you have a Netflix subscription, it's better than The Man from Toronto. I tried to watch that on my parents' recommendation, and I just did not hit.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
why it didn't show up as a thing of the week for me. It's at
yeah,
any point. Uh, now
yeah.
then, spoiler alert.
Yes.
Five, four, three, two, one. Daniel, did they get together in the end?
No. Okay. Uh, they do get in bed together, but it doesn't last very long. But no, but by the end of the movie, they're just friends, and um, she uh, Jennifer Lawrence ends up selling her house to a couple who are friends of hers who are having a baby, and then she decides she's going to move to California,
Which
and
no, Texas, Tennessee, Florida. These are the states you move to if you're fleeing from New York.
yes, indeed, yeah,
Maybe
uh,
Washington if you don't want to deal with income tax.
yeah. um, but and then the last scene is her driving him to college. So
Yep. Or like her last Uber drive.
yes, yeah,
So
but yeah, yeah,
yeah, it is both better and worse than I thought it would be, if that makes sense. Because I was expecting more just raw debauchery, which
yeah,
might have made it more edgy and funny, but wouldn't have given it this. I would have made it harder to recommend.
yeah, yeah.
Actually, I'm going to compare it to another female comedy well, for female-driven comedy I saw earlier in the year. What was that one with all the where they're in
Oh,
China?
um, not the I keep wanting to say Joy Luck Club, but that's not it.
Me too. That's blatantly wrong.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I know the movie you're talking about.
Yeah, it's
It's a road trip. It was a road trip movie.
yeah, 2023
Um,
Joyride. That's
Joyride.
why we were thinking Joy Luck Club.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah,
yes. If I compare it to Joyride, I would have an easier time recommending this than Joyride, just because Joyride was just needlessly crass through the whole thing, and the only real joy or the only real journey is the main character becoming more in tune with her culture,
Mm.
which and then nobody else really had an interesting arc, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay.
So like
Yeah.
this is much better if you want your comedies to have some heart.
Yeah. Yeah. And some growth in your main characters. Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Speaking of things that
Hmm.
have are better and worse than I was expecting,
Yeah.
this afternoon I had some time, so I decided to plop down and watch the most recent South Park special on Paramount Plus. The special is called "Not Suitable for Children," and boy, is it not! So it kind of follows the format of that last or all these Paramount Plus specials, I guess, that South Park has been doing,
Hmm.
where it's just like it's an hour long special where they have an A plot and a B plot that dovetail together in the end.
Mm. Yeah.
This one, their A and B plots are um, one of the teachers is caught with making an OnlyFans account, and Randy gets the idea that he's going to use it to uh, he's going to make his own OnlyFans account.
Oh, God.
So long periods of this special, he is just sitting around with no pants on.
Oh, jeez.
You see
Ugh.
everything, unfortunately.
Oh.
And he and Sharon get in a competition to see who can get the biggest OnlyFans account because Sharon is tired of his shit. And I'm amazed that I know she divorced him in one episode. I don't understand why that hasn't happened yet because every time they have any interaction together, she's just flabbergasted with him.
Yeah.
I can tell you after watching this one, he ain't packing, so that isn't what's keeping them together.
Oh, jeez. Oh, man.
But he is circumcised, I guess. So it's
Oh, yeah.
so you can save a couple seconds in the shower, I guess. Anyway,
Yeah.
all right. Now that I've tanked this episode's reviewability,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
plot B is that the kids in school are obsessed with this gamer drink that's loosely based on Prime, which I guess Logan Paul hawks.
Mm.
Question mark. I barely know who Logan Paul is outside of the occasional controversy, like the Japanese ending yourself forest.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here. I don't keep track of any of those people. I don't care about them at all.
Nope.
Yeah.
But these kids do, so they're just constantly drinking this cred stuff. And where these two are tied together is that they're saying, oh, OnlyFans users are kids. Kids are using all these social media people are kids.
Mm.
This has a bunch of fake sugars and stuff in it, which it's astounding that it has fake sugars in it, considering that the bottles say they have 200 calories a bottle. So that, like, if you're not like, just how much junk do you have in you if you're managing to have 200 calories with fake sugar in the mix?
Yeah. Ooh.
So basically, everything is not suitable for children, and they drill the point into your head over and over again that all this stuff on social media is there to affect your kids and da 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 da.
Mm.
So South Park is always very preachy. Like you can't ever accuse them of not telling political stories. They have a point they want to make, and they just hammer it in there.
Right. Yeah.
This one wasn't as funny as it kind of had a lame ending, honestly. Like,
Mm.
because like the two ideas go together, but they kind of did them in a uninspired way, in my opinion.
Mm.
So, especially considering how much Randy Sack you get to see,
Uh,
unless you're a South Park completionist, I can say probably give this one a skip.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's disappointing. I was hoping they would do a sequel to the last one. The Kathleen Kennedy one. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they said everything they wanted to say. Um,
Mm.
that one is funny because hearing people talk about it, everybody thinks South Park is agreeing with them on this one. So
Uh,
that might complicate a sequel because that might actually pigeonhole them into like, no, really, we're on this side,
oh yeah.
or they just didn't want to repeat themselves that quickly.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
But unfortunately, they are not the kings of comedy tonight.
Well,
S-
that's yeah.
Speaking of kings,
Well, in this case, queens. Yeah.
look, I
So
tried to transition. I tried.
you did your best. Yeah. So I watched the sixth and final season of The Crown, um, which is on Netflix. And if you missed, I did a review of season five when it came out, whenever that was. If you missed that one, basically, and if you don't know anything about The Crown, basically it's uh, the the life and the career of Queen Elizabeth II. Although they focus a lot on the other members of the royal family, but the main focus is meant to be on Queen Elizabeth. From and like the first two seasons were, her early years, and then three and four were her middle years, and then five and six were her later years.
Mhm.
Um, and but this season, I will say the last season and this season too, then they didn't really focus on her as much. There were a couple of episodes in there that I really liked, and I'll get to it in a second. But
Well, did this one have a bunch of Harry and Meghan's wild ride?
no, there was none of that, thankfully. Um, the the first four episodes. So what Netflix did with this show, what they did with like Stranger Things, where they released the season in block episodes.
Mhm.
Um, so like the first four episodes were about the last 2 months of Princess Diana's life. um, and basically from like the time when she left England, and then to the car wreck in Paris, with
Mm.
and of course showing her relationship with Dodi Fayed, and they show his father Muhammad Al Fayed basically kind of manipulating the relationship, because
Mm.
he was trying to get into the good graces of the royal family, but it never happened. Um, but so then they basically had that, and like the after Diana's death, they had the whole episode where the royal family was trying to figure out how to acknowledge it and what to do about it. I will say, um, the Queen. The movie The Queen with Helen Mirren playing Queen Elizabeth, I thought did a better job of showing that
Mm.
than the show. Um, uh, but so that was kind of interesting. I mean, they kind of portray Diana as being um, kind of a helpless, kind of like she was just like the victim of everything going on. But they do kind
Mm.
of show like she would play the media, when it suited her. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was, I mean, her life was a very tragic one.
Right. Married to somebody who wasn't ready to get married and liked someone named Camilla better. Camilla, that's the name of Gonzo's chicken.
Yeah, yeah,
Come on.
exactly. Yeah. But then the final six episodes were basically just about the later stuff that happened in the later, uh, actually probably from like after Diana's death to, I want to say it was about 2006 or 2007.
Mhm.
Um, and it's, they showed like, like William going off to college, or going off to, yeah, well, university. That's where he met Kate Middleton, and then their relationship. And then there was the little
Ah, the good royal marriage.
yes, the good royal marriage. And and then I don't know if you remember this, but when they went to Harry and Kate, and then and William, they went to a costume party, and Harry was wearing the uniform of the bad guys from World War II.
Mm. Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, they show that, and that's in the show. and they and it's like it's on all the newspapers everywhere, and and
It makes me think of the Canadian royalty from South Park. Ignore us.
Yes, we want our privacy. Yeah, there were a couple of good episodes here and there. Like I think my favorite episode in the show was when it's during Tony Blair, when Tony Blair was prime minister. And we'll say the actor who plays Tony Blair was probably exaggerating him a little too much, like his
Mm,
voice and mannerisms. Um,
fascinating.
Fascinating. Yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. um, but So in the episode, the Queen asks Blair, like, well, what do you think? What suggestions do you have for what we in the in the royal family could do for to help with our image with the British people? And he was going through like all of the stuff that like, oh, do you really need like a swan keeper? Do you really need like this guy, this one guy here and this person there and everything? And then she goes and actually meets with all the people who work in these jobs, and she sees like, oh, they take great pride in what they do, like the keeper of the swans. I mean, he takes a lot of pride in what he does. And the guy, there's one guy who like folds all the napkins and on all the parties and everything. And he folds like hundreds of them. He's been doing it for decades, but he likes doing it. And she basically tells you know Tony, yeah, I'm not cutting any of that. Still
Uh, a
go.
funny thing about the British royal family is everyone always just acts like they're completely a drain on the British nation.
Yeah.
Um, so I watched a video a while back, and I don't know if this is still true, but at least in like 2019 or so, um, so there was, I forget which British king it was, but he got into some debt, and so he and like really bad debt. So he and Parliament worked out a deal where the British government, like where Parliament would, in exchange for the income from his various properties, uh, they would pay him a stipend that would let him maintain his household.
Oh.
Um, well, in the year where they were doing it, the British royal family is actually getting the worst part of that deal and has been for a while because the rent and the value of their land, they're actually paying more into the kitty than they're getting out of it.
Oh, wow.
So, financial arguments against the royal family, it's like, okay, unless you're just going to completely disabuse them of all their properties, you're not getting what you think you are if you kick them out.
Right. Yeah. 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 For those of you who probably don't know this, Tony Blair was, I don't know if not him as much as his wife Sherry. His wife Sherry, by the way, very anti-monarchy.
Mm.
Um, and that's kind of a big reason why like the Queen and Tony Blair never really got along. Um,
So the Tipper Gore of England, in the sense of being a kind of obnoxious political figure who's there because she's somebody's wife.
exactly. Yeah. And what was also interesting too was in the first few episodes, like Tony Blair is I had forgotten this. He was pretty popular when he became prime minister. Like they really loved him, but then Iraq happened, and then that all went away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, now they don't like him as much. But yeah, the last episode was speaking of Camilla. That was the last episode was Charles and Camilla getting married, and the final shots or the final scenes in there are were with where they actually show like her casket, what it looked like at her funeral, and then the last shot is just her walking out of the church. It's kind of a symbolic thing where she's walking out of the church, and then the doors open and a bright white light, and she walks out. So
Okay.
yeah. But overall, I mean, not the best season of the show, but it might be worth watching just for that last episode, just to get some closure with with her and
I guess the problem with the biopic is that a lot of lives do kind of end kind of slowly.
Yeah. She was the oldest living monarch.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's and I actually think they had to do reshoots when they were filming this last season because
Mhm.
of the Queen's passing. Oh, yeah. But yeah.
So probably a better legacy than that episode of Peppa Pig she recorded.
Yeah. Yeah, I did not see that one.
I can't say I did either.
Yeah. But yeah. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Well, to go from the sublime to the ridiculous,
Yeah.
uh, I watched One Piece Film Red.
Mm.
So, uh, One Piece, for those of you who are under a rock, pirate anime, kind of a big deal. Hasn't been my thing historically.
Mhm.
Um, but this one intrigued me for a couple of reasons. First off, this was the highest grossing film in Japan in 2022.
Mm.
Uh, it didn't really do a whole lot here in the States, but that's because the United States, for whatever reason, is not really One Piece territory.
Hmm.
I attribute this to a few things. First off, 4Kids got the One Piece license first, so I'm sure a lot of people's, a lot of kids' first introduction to it was a really chopped down, crappy version.
Yeah. Ninja says, never trust pop stars in anime."
Um, then the second thing is this: One Piece is a dense show, with a lot of bizarre looking characters. Mind you, these characters look more bizarre than they usually do because they're like this is like rock concert wear or something that they
Yeah.
did not actually wear in this anime, so I'm not sure where this came from.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Or if they're wearing it, they're wearing an outfit similar-ish to it. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I think the animation style probably put a lot of people off to the show too.
Yeah, which it's interesting because what really hit me watching the movie, there was a scene where you know how Popeye would always go like blow into his thumb and then his arm would get big.
Yeah.
Luffy literally does that. So Luffy literally does that. So what it really struck me is, oh, okay. The reason One Piece looks so weird is it's basically the design principles of Popeye the Sailor Man, where everybody is kind of ugly and weird looking, applied to a serious-ish anime.
Yeah.
Although none of the girls are olive oil because he likes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Anyway, so enough pontificating about One Piece itself. The other thing that got my attention, besides it just doing ridiculously well, so it's like, okay, why is it doing ridiculously well? That implies you're getting an audience that isn't just the core fanboys. Um,
Right.
it also featured music by one of my favorite singers, Ado, who is basically a self-taught J-pop singer who literally used to record Vocaloid covers in her soundproofed closet when other people weren't in the house.
Wow.
She is she got a big boost her popularity by doing the soundtrack for this movie,
Mm.
which is effectively a musical,
Ah, okay.
which which is kind of interesting for One Piece.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it was really the Ado connection that got me interested in. Like Ado was, I want to say she was my number two on my Spotify replay.
Yeah.
So I listened to a lot of Ado, and I wasn't even listening to this album much. Like she puts out a lot of bangers, especially if you don't mind not knowing what all the words are.
Yeah. She did the theme song for Spy Family season 2.
That's right, she did. I
Yeah.
forgot about that. See, she's just all over the place.
Yeah.
She's even doing an international concert tour, which sadly I won't get to go to because I could not take the time off of work to fly down to LA, which is the closest place to me. Uh,
That's too
Hopefully
bad.
next time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so that's what brought my attention to this movie, and I'd actually bought it on Blu-ray a while back when I had some credit over at Best Buy,
Yeah.
and So just said, you know what? Why not? It has this songs from this performer I like. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
So the canonicity of this movie is confusing. Um, the the apparently none of these One Piece movies are actually canon, but I'll get into it in a second. So movie starts with the Straw Hat Pirates going to a big concert being held by this red and white haired character up here, Uta, which Uta is Japanese for song or singing.
Okay.
So a little bit on the nose there.
Mhm.
Um, they'd apparently seeded her into a couple episodes of the One Piece anime, and I really tried to watch them because they came on an extra disc on my collection I got.
Yeah.
The actual One Piece anime is slow and cringe, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they did feature the music in the episode at least. So, but they do a good job early on of establishing just what a honestly awful place the One Piece world can be,
Mm.
because it is a world dominated by pirates. Pirates will just roll in, take and destroy and kill whatever they want, roll out, and the only people who are against them are the government, who the government in One Piece is cartoonishly evil and corrupt.
Yeah.
So Uta has gotten herself a bit of a messiah complex, and so she declares that she's going to use her music to make a new, better world.
Mm.
Uh, what is actually going on here is a little bit convoluted. So before I actually get into the plot, I'll just go ahead and give my overall opinion of it. There were honestly a lot of characters who I had no idea who the hell they were, just because of my spotty One Piece watching record.
Yeah.
This includes several members of the crew themselves. Like, I vaguely know this blue guy over here is a cyborg who's powered by soda, of all things. I had never seen this shark guy over here before. So
Mm.
search me what his deal was. And the movie doesn't really, the movie assumes that, oh, of course, you're caught up with One Piece. Why wouldn't you be? We're the biggest anime of all time. Shut up.
Yeah.
The only comic book that's outsold us so far is Superman. We're catching up every day.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, not necessarily one to watch if you aren't willing to just roll with who some of the characters are. There's also a lot of rival pirates who show up who Luffy and or Luffy, I keep saying Luffy, Luffy and crew seem to recognize and clearly have a history with them. Don't really explain what that's about.
Mm.
Not what the movie's interested in. Movie is interested in musical slash action set pieces. Often the action often being set to one of the Ado songs,
Uh,
and kind of a heartstring pulling story that don't think about it too hard. It might reduce some of your enjoyment a little bit.
ah.
But overall, just as a spectacle piece, it is enjoyable enough.
Okay.
I, another soft recommend,
Yeah.
because it is available to stream on free for on Crunchyroll right now.
Okay. Oh, well.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, Ninja says, yeah, the anime movie they're rarely canon, and
yeah,
yeah, he mentions the remake that. Okay, well, I didn't know it was going to be on Netflix.
I guess it makes sense if Netflix is ponying up for the live action show.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully the it'll have a tighter story and less filler.
Yeah, One Piece the anime is kind of a weird relic. It's like if Naruto and Dragon Ball and Bleach, with their padding and filler arcs and slow development, we're still putting out episodes in 2023. Like it's very much a 90s 2000s model of the current anime.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Which it probably doesn't work well with today with
No,
this today.
God knows I even if the animation was amazing, I hear 1,000+ episodes and I go, no, thank you.
Yeah. I don't have the time. Yeah.
So your new anime is being done by the guys who did Spy Family. Okay, so
Oh, okay.
good animation.
Yeah.
But I'm going to get into a slightly deeper take on what the story actually is and my issues with it.
Okay.
Spoilers start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, Uta there, you'll notice a couple things about this poster. First off, there's not a clear villain on the poster. That is because Uta herself is the antagonist.
Oh,
She is pictured there with Red Shanks, the pirate,
yeah,
who is Luffy's hero growing up, who lost his arm trying to save Luffy.
yeah, and he gave him his hat. Yeah.
Yep. Um, Uta was Shanks's adopted daughter, and she at some point, I don't know if she had already eaten this Sing Sing fruit when they found her as a baby, or if she also went poking around Shanks's stuff for things she shouldn't have gotten, like Luffy did. Uh,
Mm,
but the Sing Sing fruit, you sing, people fall asleep, and I guess you can share dreams with them. This
mm,
is particular. And it's hard to decide whether to tell this chronologically or the order in which the characters find things out. I'm just going to go for chronological because it kind of lets me highlight more of my issues with what's going on here.
all right.
So she and Luffy were good friends growing up. When they meet up again in the future, they do this weird contest where they try to see who can eat the most fried chicken before an animal crashes into them. It sounds weird, and it is weird. And
Yeah.
she always cheats to win.
Uh,
So just like childhood kitty stuff, she's almost like a female version of Luffy in some senses.
okay.
Um, but Red Shanks would always take her out on their boat because she would sing to entertain them when they're out there doing their pirating.
Mm,
When they go to this island where it's this, they go to this island where it's like this musical academy, and there are thousands of singers. And Shanks gets the idea that he wants to let her live there forever because so that she can really develop her musical talents.
mm,
Um, she sings, and apparently there's some really bad luck on her part because if you so when somebody who sings with the Sing Sing fruit sings on this island, it awakens the tot musica, which is which the woman the jerd tot is death in music. The
oh,
word tot is German for death, is what I'm trying to say.
oh, okay.
Um, so it unleashes this ancient god with who has like piano keys for arms, and he just look really nuts.
Uh,
And he proceeds to burn down the entire island, killing everybody on it except for her and this old guy who literally looks like Frankenstein.
okay.
Um, and Shanks decides that he and his crew will take, the Navy shows up, and Shanks and his crew take a bunch of valuables from the island and decide that they're going to, you know, because they don't want, I guess it's because they don't want Uta to get blamed for the destruction that she caused. They decide to take the blame for this mass sacking and pillaging of this island, and they leave. And Uta hates them because she thinks that they killed everything
Uh,
and then left her behind,
mm,
like basically abandoned by her family.
okay.
So this is where I have a problem with it because you think, okay, so you have this old guy who's now raising her on this destroyed, bombed out island in complete isolation
Mhm.
because that's a responsible choice,
Yeah.
especially when she's still on the island with the eldritch death god, the Tot Musica,
Yeah.
and the old man refuses to throw away the sheet music that lets you summon the Tot Musica because he can't stand to destroy music.
Yeah.
But nobody's at fault here. The old man, he meant well, but he just wanted to raise her in safety. And Shanks meant well because he didn't want her to get blamed or whatever. It was very
Mm,
convoluted. It would be much easier if the old man had just been a cultist of the Tot Musica who lied to Red Shanks and said that she was dead, and lied and told her who killed the island, and then it could be like a misunderstanding that gets reconciled at the end.
yeah.
But no, it's weirdly falls into a modern Disney trap of not wanting to have a villain
Uh,
outside of the Tot Musica.
why?
Good question. So Uta, while she's on this island, ends up a bunch of see, in One Piece they have these snail phones,
Yeah.
like a bunch of them that can also do video streaming somehow wash up on the shore, and so she uses them to broadcast basically music live streams, and everyone loves her music, and but life is so hard, and like a typical teenager,
Hmm.
I'm thinking of a certain someone, how dare you, she assumes that she knows better than everybody else involved, and she's going to use the sing music and the tote musica to sing her songs and trap everybody in this in this blissful dream reality
Uh,
where everyone can be happy all the time. And she is the thing is that when she sings too much, she falls asleep, and the spell be broken when she falls asleep. So she's basically eating. There's these wake shrooms, which are basically, I guess, it's like caffeine plus meth or something, because they
oh,
let you just stay up indefinitely. But eating too many of them will kill you.
oh.
But she's just chomping them down as she's trying to keep things under control until the end comes. So she kind of goes all hell bop on it.
Uh, Jeez.
And so the heroes have to band together, and the heroes who are trapped in the dream, and the heroes who are outside of it, which is basically Red Shanks's crew, have to attack in perfect unison
Mm.
to fight the Tote Musica on both sides of the barrier to kill it. And Uta, having heroically sung one last song to keep the worlds connected together, uh, dies a hero's death.
Uh, hmm.
Um, so uh, my, what's funny to me is that what kept occurring to me is that Uta is basically Ahsoka in the sense that she's this hyper important character who seems like she should have come up at some point before.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to be hypothetical here. Luffy. Oh yeah, Red Shanks is my hero. Red Shanks, mean that guy who genocided the island of music?
Yeah.
Luffy would be like, wait, what?
Uh-huh.
Again, it's much easier if the Navy isn't involved and the old man just lies and tells everybody untruths because he wants to develop this talent to unleash the true magic of the Tote Musica. But
Yeah.
no, everyone had to be reasonable and understandable. So it's just
Yeah.
kind of makes the story less interesting.
Oh, yeah.
It's a rare thing when I actually call for less logic and and reasonable characters, but that would have actually improved this.
Oh, yeah.
I mentioned
Uh,
before that that Uta is of questionable canonicity. Um, Oda, the creator of the manga, has said that Uta is canon. She has appeared in the background of a few shots, I think specifically flashbacks, but the events of the movie are not.
okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'd certainly hope that they it wouldn't be canon, given
Yeah,
everything that happens in it.
yeah, like there's some logic breaking things here. Again, as far as the movie goes, it's totally fine. I enjoyed myself. Ado is a great singer, and her music works really well for the scenes. For like, because basically like, every time she basically has god, she seems to have godlike powers. So when she's
Mm.
singing, she's like making huge music staffs appear, and people get stuck to them,
Uh,
and they have to free themselves by singing the music where it lines up with their heads. Um, the characters all get to do something cool at some point or another.
mm,
I had forgotten that the dub version of Usopp was done by the guy who does Krillin on Dragon Ball, which is like perfect casting, like perfect cross casting.
yeah.
Um, it was kind of funny watching it dubbed and having her suddenly start singing in Japanese, but that's what you always get with these productions.
Yeah.
Um,
Indeed.
Overall thoughts, despite my issues with it, I see why this was a big deal, and I'm really glad that it gave a singer who I was already into before it was cool. Actually, I don't. Okay, so I think I had seen some like whole life covers of some of her music, and then I saw a cover of the song from this one, which is where it really became aware of her. So I guess I didn't like her before it was cool. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll turn in my glasses and my skinny jeans.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the decent watch. Soft recommend. It's on Crunchyroll for free. Give it a shot.
Okay. Oh, very, very cool. Yeah.
So, are we going to continue the trend of mediocrity today?
No. So I watched the first three episodes from Reacher season two, which is on Amazon Prime. Um, I really enjoyed the first season. It was really good story. It had a good story to it. I liked the characters in it. Reacher's really cool. And it was really exciting. Had a lot of great fight scenes and action scenes in there. And so in season two, so we got renewed for season two. I'm like, all right, awesome. So this season, Reacher is back to being, his old self, where he's living this nomadic lifestyle, just kind of going around from town to town, with only the clothes on his back. He gets, clothes at thrift stores, and he has a bank account that's where his army pension gets direct deposited into, so he can get
Hmm.
cash. But he doesn't have a car, doesn't have a house, doesn't have any property at all. And that kind of comes up in this to a greater degree in this season. Uh, he gets some money out of his bank account, and he looks at the balance, and the balance is kind of like a coded message from a member of his old army unit. He was part of this special investigative unit for the Army CID, which is basically Army cops. Um, and and she was in the first season. She helped him out with his case in the first season. So Reacher only get what I think is the part of his character is he only gets involved in situations if he has a personal attachment to it.
Okay.
So like the first season, he's trying to find out who killed his brother. In this season, he meets up with his old woman, or not, she's not an old woman, but a woman from his old unit,
Hmm.
and she tells him that another a guy from the same unit, they found him dead in the mountains. And so they're basically trying to figure out like who killed him, and then they reach out to the other members from this unit, and they manage to get a hold of two other ones, and then another two of them they can't get a hold of, and they assume that they've been killed, and they're trying to figure out, who killed their friends. And throughout like the first three seasons, it's really interesting is like the dynamic that they all have with each other. Like they're obviously, still really good friends. They still, get along, but Reacher being Reacher, like he didn't keep track of what was going on with any of them. He's like, he finds out like the one of the guys in there, like he used to be like a real ladies man. Now he's married and he's got kids, and he's like, well, gee, when did that happen? And like, well, life happens, and there's this one picture that they took of all of them together, like the first day that they were working. They're out in front of a in front of a campfire. They all have this picture except for Reacher, and he's like, "Am I the only one who doesn't have this picture?" And
Sounds like it's got a nice sense of humor about it.
yeah, it does, yeah. And but yeah, that's the whole part of it is just, you kind of see the downside. He sees the downside of this nomadic life that he's living, just because he loses track of everything, and
Mhm.
and he doesn't, he doesn't know what's happening with anybody. And then of course he does have like in the first season, he does have a love interest in this season, and it's another one of the members of the unit. And apparently they're like kind of had a thing uh, when they were working together. But Reacher, didn't pursue it, because even though they were the same rank, he was still technically her boss, and
Mm.
it just wouldn't have been appropriate. But they do end up hooking up. Uh, but um, but yeah, I mean, this is so far it's really good. The conspiracy of the mystery of what happened to their friends is still kind of unfolding. And the bad guy is played by Robert Patrick, the T-1000 from
Oh, okay.
Terminator 2. And they even make a Terminator reference in there, where they're Reacher and his friend, they're staying at a hotel under assumed names, and he's using the name Starlin Castro, who was an old baseball player, and she's using the name Sarah Connor. And Robert Patrick tells the guy, like, "Oh yeah, Starlin Castro, he's an old baseball player," and then he's like, "Well, who's Sarah Connor?" And Robert Patrick's like, "I don't care." But
So the vibe of this show. Have you ever seen Justified?
yes.
This is sounding very Justified. Would you say that that's accurate?
Yeah, that's it. That's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very similar feel to it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Where it's like things can be jokey or darkly serious, and it's the same cast.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, and one of the things I like about the show, compared to, and I think I might have mentioned this because I think I talked about the first season on another show on another podcast. But the guy who plays Reacher actually looks like how Reacher is supposed to look, like how he's described in
Right.
the books.
Right.
Like
Not Tom Cruise.
no, he's not Tom Cruise. No, he's a big guy. He's a mountain of a man, and he could just beat the crap out of anybody. Yeah. So,
So a little bit of realism is what I'm hearing.
oh yes, yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you got Amazon Prime, I definitely give the first season a watch, and then give the first few episodes a watch on this one too.
Did you only end up doing the first three because only the first three are out so far, or just time?
Because only the first three have been dropped so
Okay,
far.
so they're doing the weekly drop.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
jerks.
I know. Yeah,
Bringing back old TV.
yeah. Jeez. But yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed yourself because I'm kind of back to faint recommends again.
Okay.
So a manga I think I had done this as my thing of the week ages and ages ago. My Hero Academia Vigilantes has finally wrapped up.
Okay.
The reason I use the word finally is, well, I'll get into what the premise is. For those who didn't see that ancient review, basically, if My Hero Academia is X-Men, My Hero Academia Vigilantes is like Spider-Man. Generally smaller street level heroism because these aren't official heroes. This is this is a bunch of you've got the Crawler, who everyone calls Crawler because they misheard his name. Pop, that's just name Pop. She's a idol who has jumpy powers.
Okay.
Crawler can slide along the ground. Basically, he can emit energy from his fingertips, and the way he figures out at first how to use it is he can just slide along the ground like he's like it's made of oil, but he has like pinpoint precision with when he stops and everything.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of a unique power, and it kind of gives him a Spider-Man-y air because he can also move up walls and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
And then you've got his teacher back here who, dang, I don't have the volume with me right now because I lent it to a friend.
Oh.
Oh, 1 second. It's not fisticuffs, but it's something similar. Atlantes. Plot.
Yeah.
Knuckle Duster. That's it. I knew it had to be cooler than fisticuffs. Anyways, yeah, Knuckle Duster, who turns out in the later series to be a former big hero who actually had his superpowers stolen for him by All for One.
Okay. Yeah.
Knuckle Duster, not Knuckle Buster.
Close, ninja.
Yeah. Uh, so what I will say is that the series overall has highs and lows. There's like an initial start, and even in the last volume, the writer was commenting that what everyone seems to remember about the series is the early days with Crawler and Pop and Knuckle Duster as like the main three characters, just having hero of the week type things or villain of the week type things.
Yeah.
Um, and then Knuckle Duster gets removed from the series for a bit. And
Uh,
so then they introduce a bunch of new characters who some of them are interesting, some of them not so much. There's definitely a lot of filler background characters. It's something I've noticed that that comics and manga can do that a prose novel can't, is just cram in a bunch of characters who don't need a lot of screen time or definition to be distinctive, because you just draw them a particular way. Yeah. Oh, they're the triplets.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, I would say that the series overall has a little bit of a slow burn. I seriously, the last 3 or 4 volumes, which came out of the course of the last year and a half or so, I kept thinking, oh, this has got to be the last volume, right? This has got to be the last volume, right? Because he has a very long and drawn out fight, like multi-volume fight with the
Mhm.
main villain of the series, who, if you know anything about My Hero Academia, he's basically a prototype Nomu, the artificial villains with the exposed brains,
Oh yeah, those guys. Yeah, I remember
but
them.
more tragic and more bitter about his tragic life. Like, and he's actually sapient instead of
Okay.
just being basically a fleshy robot.
Mm. All right.
Um, and at certain points, like, okay, Crawler, I get that you're a superhero in the Spider-Man vein, but at a certain point, just shoot to kill, you idiot. Do you know
Yeah.
how many people you're putting in danger right now?
Yeah. Jeez. Oh.
Because his powers actually develop in a really cool way, where he's able to, project energy bolts to fly and shoot energy bolts, and like, so power that, like, he had a power that basically would never let him be a real hero from a hero academy,
Oh, yeah.
because he was just seen as, it's just, well, why would we want to develop this power? Well, it turns out there was a lot of power there to develop.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So it's kind of nice that way. His real name is Koichi. Koichi's a likable kid. Uh,
Mm.
you root for him. He's kind of Peter Parkery.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Ninjas is it's me with the final arc of My Hero Academia.
So see, maybe it's congenital to the series. Anyway,
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I'm way behind on the main series, so this is what I've been reading the whole way along.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, overall, it's a fine read. 15 volumes isn't too much of an investment time wise.
Yeah.
Um, if you like I would say, even if you don't like My Hero Academia, it's interesting. If you haven't read the main series, though, they do have a few volumes where they go into the backstory of some of the teachers, which that itself is kind of interesting in places.
Okay.
Like, you find out more about what Eraser's deal is.
Yeah. What about Midnight?
She is also in there quite a bit.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and yeah, a lot of fan service with her when she's around. So that's,
Oh, yeah.
I don't. I often forget to talk about the art in these comics. The artist here, Betancourt, very nice.
Hmm,
Uh,
very good.
uh, like, good at drawing action, good at drawing the characters, good at, like I said, drawing a whole bunch of background characters, giving them with minimal writing and characterization, and making them distinct enough that I more or less remember who they are months and months apart. Yeah.
Hmm,
And just a lot of fun little visual references to, like, Marvel comics and things like that.
yeah, okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I'll give this one like a B overall. Like, the ending kind of overstays its welcome. It's the type of thing where I might not even notice it if I were to just sit down and reread the series, because I wouldn't be going, Volume 12. This feels like it's wrapping up soon. Volume 13. This has got to be the end, right? Volume 14. Huh, I'm getting suspiciously close to the last page, and this doesn't look like it's ending yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, so overall recommend.
Okay. Yeah, I may check that out. I mean, yeah, 15 volumes. That's not very long. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
perfect for a spinoff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Speaking of series that never seemed to end in their day, our classic movie is Ernest Saves Christmas.
Yeah. No, no, main ver.
Know what I mean?
No, me.
So,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, no. I was just gonna say. Yeah. I mean, I like all, I think both of us we grew up as kids watching all the Ernest movies and
Yep.
enjoyed them immensely. Especially I think my favorite one's the camp where you go, yeah, which I think was the first one.
Was that the one where they had the machine where you could just like put things into it? Like, we want chicken Alfredo, put in a chicken, an Al Alfredo.
Yeah, yeah. And he takes a bite of it and he's like, "Mm, let's go run it over there." And he runs out and blah.
Now that I think about it, was he played by the same guy who is the post office or the airport employee in this one?
Yeah, that's the same guy. Yeah.
Okay, so they have some recurring actors, if not characters.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But so unfortunately, since Jim Varney passed away from lung cancer in 2000, I bet there are a lot of people out there who don't know what an earnest is or what we're the hell we're even talking about.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah. For those of you who might be of the of the younger generation, or maybe if you watch the first two Toy Story movies, Jim Varney was the voice of Slinky.
He also made a turn on The Simpsons as a carny who swindled the Simpsons out of their house.
Oh, oh, I remember that one. Yeah. But yeah, Ernest
Oh,
was.
he was also the cook in the Atlantis movie from Disney.
Oh, that's right.
Look,
Yeah.
I got the four food groups: beans, biscuits, bacon, and butter, I think was the
Butter.
other
Yeah.
one.
God, I haven't watched that movie in a while. I may have to go back to
That,
give it
that
one
was one
watch.
thing I forgot to mention on our Rescuers Down Under review. I noticed
Yeah,
that McLeach really looked like a character from Atlantis, so I wonder if they had the same animation staff or directors on him.
probably. Yeah.
Like the same sort of weird square head.
Square. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, but Ernest. So for those of you who don't know, Jim Varney, the character that he plays, Ernest P. Worrell, he started out as a kind of a, what would you call, spokesperson, I guess,
Yeah,
for he did a lot of advertising for different products in different regions around the country.
yeah, it's weird. It wasn't even like like usually if you have a character like that, he'll be like, "Oh, it's Ernest. Hey, it's Ernest from Walmart. I'm here to tell you what's going on at Walmart." He was just a gun for hire.
Yeah, he was. And yeah, and my family, well, it would always talk about him with Brahms Ice Cream, which was a chain of ice cream parlors in the Midwest. A lot of them in Oklahoma. Um,
Yeah, and like it was weird because they would film these commercials apparently on a handheld camera in
yeah,
an 80s handheld camera at that.
yeah,
And apparently he would just like knock out 25 of these commercials back to back because apparently Jim Varney had like a photographic memory, so he could flawlessly just like, okay, next up, Mellow Yellow, go.
yeah.
Hey Vern, like
Hey,
he was
hey,
always
Vern, you want?
talking. I guess Vern was the cameraman.
Yeah, yeah. um, but yeah, so and he translated that into a bunch of movies, and like I said, like Ernest Goes to Camp, Ernest
Ernest,
Scared Stupid, Ernest Goes to Jail,
Ernest rides again.
Ernest Rise Again, Ernest Goes to School. You get the idea.
Yep.
And of course, in this one, it's Ernest Saves Christmas.
Yep. And watching this one, I couldn't help but notice some odd similarities to the Santa Claus, which came out a couple years after this.
Yeah, I noticed. Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah. The plot of the movie, it takes place in Orlando, and they actually filmed it in Orlando because I recognized a lot of the areas where they filmed a lot of the scenes, and they actually did film it in the Orlando airport. I recognize that terminal; been in it many
Hmm.
times. Um, uh, but yeah, so they're in, so Santa. So basically, it's Santa Claus. He's in Orlando because he's about ready to retire, and he's going to pass the torch off to this children's entertainer whose show just got canceled.
Suspiciously like Mr. Rogers.
Yes, and and Ernest is a cab driver.
You know, I always thought that Ernest was an Innocent Child series, and then I noticed that he's taxi cab number 69.
Yeah. um, but yeah, so he picks Santa Claus up at the airport and takes him to the children's museum so he can meet this guy. And of course, a a Christmas tree falls off the back of a truck, and Ernest has to stop traffic in the middle, back up to pick up the tree. Which, if you know anything about the drivers in Orlando, not outside the realm of possibility for something like that to happen.
Or for that matter, for Ernest to have gotten shot for that maneuver.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. but but yeah, so yeah, basically the whole movie is Ernest trying to help Santa Claus gets try to convince this guy, this old I can't remember what was his name. Joe, is that right?
Oh, you mean the guy
The,
who they were trying to recruit?
yeah, I think his name was Joe. Trying to recruit Joe to take over the role of
Yeah,
Santa
Joe.
Claus. Joe, okay. And of course, this being an Ernest movie, hijinks ensue. um
Heck, hijinks never really stop.
yeah, exactly. And of course, the other subplot in there too is he meets a teenage girl who's run away from home and looks very well fed and very well dressed for a teenage runaway.
Shh. Don't ask questions about how she was maintaining herself.
Oh,
Shh.
okay, okay. this
It's an
this
innocent children's movie, dang
yes,
it.
okay, right. I forgot. uh,
She,
and
she was sustaining herself on the power of Christmas.
yes, that's right. Yes. And so they're trying to help her, find her way, basically.
Yeah,
Um,
but yes, and Santa has to get his bag, his magic bag, which the Santa can pull out the perfect gift for the person out of it.
right.
Um, and basically, Santa Claus is starting to lose it. Like he's like, I have to take notes, and you can't do this job taking notes. You just have to know.
Right. Yeah. And he's the magic is starting to fade. Which is why he's got to get the new guy. And of course the new guy, part of what he's having trouble with is the new guy has a new acting job, and it's being in a very low budget Christmas horror movie.
Chris, Christmas Sleigh, SLAY, which Santa um, comedically thought was SLEIGH.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's yes, and Santa gets very angry with the director and slugs him.
Yep. Yeah, this is basically, yeah, Joe is Mr. Rogers having to take on a more adult role, which would just be not like him at all.
Yeah, yeah, and of course he doesn't believe Santa Claus, that the guy is actually Santa Claus,
And who
and
would?
even yeah, and who would? Yeah, I mean, yeah, you get this kind of oddly, odd guy who's of course pretty well dressed, but still an odd guy.
And who
uh,
just he literally has monopoly money instead of actual money in his pocket, which at one point gets him arrested. It's
yeah,
like, okay, we got to get this guy off the streets.
yeah. And but yeah, and of course, you've got Ernest in there who's doing everything he can, but he's a bit like Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark. He just doesn't really. He doesn't. He tries to help, but he's not really accomplishing much.
Hey now. He got Santa out of jail by pretending to be from the government.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
He got Santa into the movie studio by pretending to be the snake expert.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, want a snake for your kid? Gave my kid a snake last year. Poor little guy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's Ernest's whole shtick is he'll show up in a bunch of different costumes. Oh, and he pretends to be the mother, Joe's mother, to find out where Joe is filming the movie.
Yeah, he plays the old lady character, yeah.
He just has this whole bunch of bits he can do, and now I did question where he had the clothes in his truck because we saw the truck bed of his truck many times.
Yeah,
I'll assume it's the power of Christmas gets him the disguise when he needs it.
right, yeah.
So I'd say the highlights of this movie are the Ernest shtick sections
Yeah,
because he's like a puppy who really wants to help.
yeah,
It just doesn't know how entirely, and so
yeah,
he'll
yeah,
destroy a lot of stuff. And
yeah, like, yeah, they do the whole bit where he goes to Vern's house and he just, you know, destroys the whole place, ripping the electrical wire out of the wall and,
yeah, yeah, I think that's where the movie really kicks up is that scene because before that is like a little bit okay, a little bit slow, but it starts firing on all cylinders once they hit the Vern scene and past it.
yeah, yeah, I love that when he opens the door and he's like, "Hey, Vern!" Oh God,
Slam. Vern being an unseen cameraman, basically.
yeah, yeah,
Now, the similarities to the Santa Claus are that it deals with the idea that Santa is a mantle that is passed down from person to person.
hmm
It's just basically instead of focusing on the Santa character, it's Ernest is helping to smooth things out when he isn't making things rougher.
right, yeah. Yeah, like like when he's tries to drive the sleigh and it doesn't go very well.
Yeah, almost kills the elves and the and the reindeer. Oh yeah, there's the plot line where they've had to ship the reindeer in. I think because they were low on Christmas magic, so they couldn't just fly down themselves.
Yeah, so they had to be shipped in a boxes, and the two airport workers are just complete total idiots, and
Yeah, they call in animal control, and they see the reindeer on the ceiling in a fairly convincing effect.
yeah, yeah, it was, yeah, and they're like, yeah, that's outside of our purview. Call air control.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it's available on where do we watch it? Was it
uh,
Paramount?
Paramount Plus. Yeah.
Yep, it's on Paramount. It's just a fine, innocent kids movie.
hmm
No harmful messages one way or the other. It's just basically about it is like there are some actual stakes to it because oh they do if Santa can't pass it on, he's waited too long and the Christmas magic will just die out.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, there's a bit of a ticking clock in there. Yeah.
Yep, they have until 7 o'clock.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I enjoyed this movie. I mean, it was yeah. It's a fun like a fun family movie. Kind of wish they still made movies like this.
Yeah, and I looked this up on Rotten Tomatoes and it had like a 36%, which I guess if I'm judging it as like a movie, like some sort of Scrooge or something, maybe I could see that.
Yeah.
Or if the humor just didn't land for you, it would be kind of torturous. But
Yeah. I will say the humor isn't for everybody. I mean, yeah, there are some people who probably kind of roll their eyes at a lot of it, but I like it.
yep.
Yeah.
See, you kind of kept it close to your chest. I had thought that I was forcing Ernest upon you for the first time, and you've seen more of it than I have since you actually have seen the TV show.
Yeah. There was a TV show on in the '80s. I think it was called Hey Vern, it's Ernest. Yeah.
Which
What? Yeah.
how weird is that? Like, actually, you know what? You know what? It really is the closest modern-ish equivalent we have is that time they tried to turn the Geico Caveman into a sitcom.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Nobody had anything good to say about that.
No, they did not. No. But yeah. But yeah, give this I would say add this to your Christmas repertoire of other Christmas movies.
Yep, I hadn't seen it in 20 plus years, and I was like, wait, why haven't I seen this in 20 plus years?
Yeah, I guess it was just well, probably hadn't been on a streaming service yet.
That's true. I don't think I've
Yeah,
ever seen a copy for this for sale anywhere.
yeah. You might have gotten lucky back in the day and found it in the 4.99 bin at Best Buy.
Yeah, that seems like its natural habitat.
Yeah, but yeah, uh,
Uh,
I think I've said all I need to say.
we,
Um,
we have exhaust. Oh, huh. Best Buy has the Ultimate Ernest collection for 13.99. Let's see what all that includes. Ernest in the Army, Hey Vern, it's My Family album, Ernest Goes to Africa, Your World as I See It, Ernest's Greatest Hits Volume 1, Ernest's Greatest Hit Volume 2. I feel like there's a few movies to be left out to call out the Ultimate Collection, but
yeah, uh,
well,
oh,
worth digging into a little. At least it's still available.
yeah, indeed. Well, well, as DB said, I think we've exhausted these topics. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it as always. As DB said earlier, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, hit the bell, all that good YouTube stuff.
Yep.
And yeah, we'll see you next week where we're going to be talking about Rebel Moon. So yeah.
Snyder!
3 hours of Snyder.
I will find him!
Yes.
I will find him!
Why did you say that name?
I was just thinking, how weird is it that Michael, I think I mentioned this in the Flash review, like Michael Shannon as Zod is like the most frequently appearing character in all these movies. And
Yes.
he's specifically on record as saying, "Oh, I don't want to get typecast as Zod." Like how
Yeah. Too late.
and Ninja says, "Have a good night," and oh my God,
Mm,
yes, yes,
yeah.
the Star Wars movie that Lucasfilm was too cowardly to greenlight.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, we'll see if they were right or not.
Yes, we will. All right. Well, yeah, that's all we got for tonight. So later, everybody.
Merry Christmas to everyone.
Oh, yes. Yes. Merry Christmas. Yeah. And
Happy
happy
holidays.
holidays. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, how lucky is it that the schedule this year is actually going to let us actually keep doing our podcast through the holidays? Usually it gets interrupted by Christmas Eve or something.
Yeah. Yeah. We're very, very lucky.
We're
Yes.
so fortunate to get to review Rebel Moon.
Oh,
Uh,
yes. Yeah.
hey, calendar people, can we move Christmas like a day or so? Yeah, whatever. Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Good night, everybody.